Wrestling. And this week we are talking Ring of Honor. I'm going to bring in the man they call Dave and juice to the gills, AJ Strangebrew. How's everybody doing today?
A little sore, but good. That's it should be a fun show. I did hear that our friend Kevin Berry's actually writing another book. It's actually called Man by Dave. So that should be a fun read.
Kevin, what's his name?
Vinny Berry. Sorry, I don't know why I said Kenny Berry. Yeah, sorry. I'm on painkillers, steroids, and antibiotics right now. Yeah, because of my throat.
He's got needles in his elbows, needles in his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's
ready to go.
Yeah, they had to go in and open up my throat this morning. So now I know what it feels like.
Now, speaking of opening throats, last weekend we went to Death Before Dishonor.
I don't remember that happening, but that's cool.
In Lowell, Massachusetts. I had to find a way to Joe
had the VIP package where they do a little throat opening. It's nice.
They took care of my man. So, yeah, you want to talk about Death Before Dishonor before we do this, which actually, by the way, we didn't even talk about this, but a little behind the scenes here. I did not think of a 5-3-1 list this week, and me and Joe did not talk anything. Then I just look online, your top 5 Ring of Honor matches of all time. And I'm like, okay. Did we have this discussion last week? We could air out our
No, we didn't. I was sitting there, and while we were watching FTR versus the Briscoes, I was like, ooh. I put up, for a couple minutes, I had an FTR entrance video up, which we found apparently we can't do.
Talk about it, bro.
Copyright laws are getting away from us. Mm-hmm. But then it got me thinking, like, what are some of the best all-time ROH matches? Because I think we've seen 2 of them with FTR and the Briscoes, and we were lucky enough to be there for the 2 out of 3 Falls match last week.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we talk about the card first? Me and AJ during the first match were trying to get food. That was during Colt Cabana and Anthony Henry.
Yeah, that was a very good kickoff to the pre-show.
Yeah, also the best food I've ever received.
It was not. It was horrible. Oh, chicken fingers were on cardboard.
4 chicken fingers and some French fries. And Dave looks at me at one point and goes, I'm not sure I can finish this. This is the longest meal I've ever had.
And Dave can usually eat anything. Like, you guys missed out. We went to the great Kowloon restaurant in Saugus, Mass. I got some Singapore street noodles. We had some Saugus wings. There was orange chicken floating around. It was amazing. If you are ever in the area while they're still open, definitely check out Kowloon.
Yeah, instead of Saugus, we got soggy ass. Just as good.
And you guys missed the Tony Khan hype speech at the beginning of the event, which it will never fail to entertain me. Like, he is just so overexcited. And in a way, it does get the crowd going, even if it can be cringe at times.
When Tony Khan gets hyped, he stays hyped.
Now, after Colt Cabana, we had the Shinobi Shadow Squad versus apparently not Tully's group anymore. And that was another thing that blew me away, is like, how if Tony Khan brings in Tully Blanchard, he fires him in like the most, I'm not going to say disrespectful ways, but in the most forgettable ways.
Yeah,
well, in fairness, Tony Khan found out that Tully Blanchard had failed a drug test while he was with the WWE, so he had to let him go. There was no recourse.
I think it's funny is that no one's telling this story, but AJ actually said to me while we were in line during the Cabana match, pretty cool, we're going to see Tully Blanchard. He's like, I think I might have saw him at a house show at WWE around 1990, and I went to a house show too, and I'm like, nah, I don't think it was on my tape. And he's like, oh, and we were arguing, like, maybe we saw him, maybe we didn't. Yeah. And then, no Tully.
A minute later, they replaced Tully.
Yeah, and you got to see Prince Nana, which I bet you were on the edge of your seat for.
I was not.
Absolutely.
No fucking Tully Blanchard.
Prince Nana, we did not realize how much effect he would have on the World Championship match, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's talk about it. But first, too, there was a match in between there. The Truth Busters.
Trust Busters.
Trust Busters, yes.
Ariel Daivari and Slim J versus Cheeseburger and Eli Islam. Ism.
Oh, okay. That's who the Shinobi Shadow Squad faced.
Yes.
Slim J looked like freaking Brian Christopher without the steroids.
And it turns out I was laughing because I'm like, he looks like one of those dudes that started out in ROH with like the big pants and the wife beater. It turns out he did start in ROH. He was an old member of Special K. Not bad in the ring, but just I couldn't get with the outfit.
When you trained in ROH, they actually gave you a wife beater and baggy pants to wear.
He was on AEW Dark this week, and it might have been Tate, but he had had a match. He won. I forget who his opponent was, and then Daivari came out later and talking about this whole trust fund and how he's the richest man in all of wrestling now, even more money than Tony Khan, which everybody's just like, okay, all right, this is stupid. But then he brought out Slim J, noting that he had scouted him and he would be part of his trust fund and they'd be looking for other people too. It kind of gave me vibes of, I don't know, everyone's going to know this, but of Northeast Wrestling fans, that Jared character.
Oh, the Trust Fund.
Yes, they're actually called the Trust Fund, right?
It's weird that the Trust Fund would remind you of the Trust Fund Busters. That's really odd.
Obviously, we were super into this gimmick. Anyway, that followed the 6-man match, though, with the Embassy there. Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony against Alex Zane, Blake Christian, and Tony Deppen. That was a really outstanding 6-man match, though. I thought that Deppen, Christian, and Zane all got a chance, even though they lost, got a chance to shine.
Oh, yeah, they're big and go ahead.
If they're going to have a crossover at all into AEW, that is a 6-man team that would be fun to watch for the new titles that they're going to have for the what do they call their 6-man tag titles now? Ooh. Triple Lucha tag title from Hell or something like that. Whatever they call it, that would be a great way to go.
Yeah, now that trios team that's made up of guys that have been big in GCW, and it was good to see them get in that ROH ring, even if Deppen was the ROH TV champion near the end there.
Yeah, I thought it was a great chance for them to shine, even though ultimately Cage and the Gates of Agony got the win. I just thought it was a great 6-man match where everybody kind of shined. And I think that's something that Ring of Honor and AEW have done well, is they've always had good 6-man matches, kind of in the spirit of like Lucha Libre, where they've always had the good 6-man matches. Whereas otherwise in American wrestling, like WWE, and I would even say not WCW, you'd have to go back to Crockett NWA. Like nobody really like pumped up the 6-man matches anymore.
I really enjoyed it. I just wish people would hold the tag rope a little bit more. Maybe put a second tag rope out there for the other two people so they're not sharing one tag rope. That's nice.
We get to that later. After that, Joe, you can correct me. Willow Nightingale and what's her name?
Allison Kay.
Yeah, Allison Kay. Well, I can see where you wouldn't remember Allison Kay. She's only been around for a little bit. But Pinky's up. It was a hell of a match.
Yeah, the crowd was really into that. Willow, obviously a favorite there.
Yeah, I thought both women really put on a great show. I thought they were fantastic. Willow Nightingale is over. I think she's over in AEW. She's over in Ring of Honor. Hopefully they're going to reward her for what she's been doing.
Yeah, and then we kicked off the main show, man. Claudio Castagnoli versus Jonathan Gresham, Ring of Honor belt. And I thought it was very interesting that when Gresham first came out, Princess Nana was not even there right away.
That's Prince Nana. Don't you despair his good name.
Nana.
Well, first of all, Queen Nani Boo Boo wasn't out with him, but Jonathan Gresham didn't even come out in his usual attire. He didn't come out with the mask on, didn't come out with anything, had a boo-boo face on his face, as some people pointed out. I'm not saying he had boo-boo face. I'm just saying that the people felt like he had a boo-boo face coming out.
He had Nana boo-boo face.
Oh, see, that might be it. But once again, it looked like his music hit, and he just left and didn't even wait for Nani Boo Boo to come with him.
Yeah, there was a lot of controversy coming out of this, saying he argued with Tony Khan. Apparently, he shut down his Twitter, and Dave's going to be heartbroken that Terminus might not put on a 4th show.
We'll get by. I thought this was a great match, though. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought the crowd popped huge for Claudio winning.
Mm-hmm. If this is Gresham operating at half speed, like let's work it out and get Gresham signed. You know?
Yeah, they both looked fantastic. You really could see the size difference. Holy shit, did Claudio look huge next to Gresham? Gresham.
Go ahead.
No, but I was gonna say, but Gresham makes up for it with his ability because you never had the doubt. Sometimes when you have that much of a size difference, you have doubt as to whether the other person belongs in there, like a Rey Mysterio. But in this case, I didn't have that doubt. I thought Gresham absolutely belonged in that match.
Gresham was kicking at the legs, trying to negate that height difference. You saw a couple times where Claudio's leg gave out on him. So Gresham was doing the best with what he could.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Rey Mysterio poof 619. He actually worked the match correctly.
Yeah, you mean one of the legends of the sport, Rey Mysterio, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see Gresham. I was thinking this too, like maybe get back to the pure rules matches, because I was thinking Yuta's in the Blackpool Combat Club, and they maybe could segue into that. And I think Gresham would be a great opponent for Yuta. And
I'd love to see that matchup. Love to see him versus Daniel Garcia also.
Yeah. After that, we had Dalton Castle and the boys versus Vincent, Bateman, and Dutch. Again, fun match. Castle and the boys got the 6-man champs. I think we were kind of calling this because we were all saying that Vincent had the Impact contract now.
So here's the funny thing. We did call it. We knew it was coming. However, they have a 6-man tag title already in Ring of Honor, and now you have the trios title in AEW. Seems a little silly to have both of them. I know they're going to be run separately, but maybe have one overlap the other one and let them, interchange a little bit.
I think the problem is here. Okay, so one, I do want to say though, AEW has so many factions and so many groups that I can see a 6-man making sense. Maybe we don't need one in Ring of Honor currently, but the belts are
well, that's what I'm actually thinking. I'm thinking that you might not see the one in Ring of Honor again. Does anybody know, is Dalton Castle signed to Ring of Honor?
That is a good question. I'm not
I know
sure.
They sign new people to new contracts. Does anybody know if he's actually signed to them?
I don't know. I think you're getting a little choppy.
Yeah, we might actually see those belts. You did not see him. Yeah, am I a little choppy?
Yeah, maybe get out for a minute and come back in, and we'll continue this, and then hopefully you'll be good for the rest of the show. Give it a shot.
All right.
You also have a delay, I think, too. I think you're getting my information.
All right, let's pop him out. We'll see him leave, come back. Dave, let's do the heavy lifting.
Let's do the heavy lifting as we do, baby. We got Real Yuta versus Daniel Garcia. Awesome fucking match. What's funny is, to me, this match is very interesting to look back on now, because after what happened with Garcia and Danielson on Wednesday Night Dynamite, it was very interesting. It felt like one of those things where, yes, Yuta got the win. He looked great, but ultimately Garcia was the one who was going to get elevated.
Yeah, it was a great match. They didn't play to the pure rules as much as I expected, because usually when you have that pure title, the rules become more of an issue. But I think there was one rope break, which was really weird. They only utilized that. What'd you think of that, AJ? The fact that the pure rules didn't come as much into play.
They should have used him more. I feel like they should have. I love the rope break. To me, that rule is fantastic. The fact that you can only have 3 rope breaks, and then after that, if you get caught in a submission, you can lose. It's one of my favorite rules, and I would have liked to have seen it used more.
Yeah. Overall, I also did want to point out, I like the fact out of everybody, even all the rest of the heels, with the exception of Garcia, did go with the code of honor, and Garcia was the one person not shake hands, and then flips off the Ring of Honor sign on the way out. True heel form. I think Garcia, I was talking, I don't know if it was Scott, but somebody had mentioned to me that Garcia is great. I felt like they're moving him up too, but the kid maybe has to work on his promo. I can understand that, but I have to say, there's something about Garcia's promo. I like it. Like, he comes off real to me. Like, he comes off like he's just that fucking Buffalo, New York guy, but it's not an act, Like, he is that guy. Like I was listening to his the pre-show for this before it came up, the countdown for Ring of Honor, and he's like talking to you, and he's like, "I'm a dog. I'm gonna break you, boy." And it's just like, this feels like this is who he is. Like, he might rob you for your sneakers, and that's okay.
I feel like he's one big win away from actually becoming a superstar.
We'll talk about that.
Oh.
We'll talk about it more at the end of the show too. But
I did like that for the judges. They had Josh Woods out there. Josh Woods ends up being on Dynamite also this week. But Josh Woods is one of my favorite Ring of Honor stars from the last inception of Ring of Honor. So it was nice to see him out there.
Yeah, John Waters, and then former guest of the show, Ace Steel, were the other judges as well. All right. After that, we had Roosh versus Dragon Lee. And it was funny, when this match started, after the Pure Rules match, I thought maybe the crowd was going to die down a bit. But these fucking guys killed each other. So they weren't going to let that happen anyway, even if we were. And this was like a very, very physical match. And Roosh got the win. And ultimately, I thought it put him in a great spot going into Dynamite later this weekend, too. Would focus on him. And this guy just delivered all week.
Well, that's the funny thing about this card is, once again, I know they're separate entities, but I think that this card did a good job of building some of the people that would be on later this week in Dynamite. I think that it built up a lot of those stars, and Roosh is definitely one of them. Roosh looked phenomenal in this match. You got to give it up to Dragon Lee, too. They took some bumps where it was really, holy shit, is someone dead?
Yeah, that's where it doesn't hurt to wrestle your brother, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to do this.
Or in this case, wrestling your brother really hurts.
After that, Mercedes Martinez versus Serena Deeb. You know what? Somebody said this was probably one of the matches where the crowd wasn't as into, but you wouldn't know it in our section.
I was going to say, all I heard in our section was how over Mercedes Martinez was. She came across as a superstar. I thought it was amazing. The crowd was really behind her in our section.
Yeah, and both women worked really hard. I thought this match over-delivered, personally. I want to see Serena win. I think she's just such an amazing technical wrestler, but I ain't mad at Martinez. So overall, another good match to the show.
I would not be surprised with how over Willow Nightingale was if we see Mercedes Martinez down the road versus Willow Nightingale for that championship.
That would be a good matchup.
Absolutely. And then Ring of Honor TV Championship. And I really like this match, Samoa Joe, Jay Lethal, because I really enjoyed that. It was just like 10 minutes of a brawl outside, and they're going through the crowd and going through the table, and there's a ton of interference. It felt like how almost WWE, we'll see this weekend, but sometimes they'll do their last man standing matches where they'll have these crazy fights sometimes when WWE does one actually well, and then you realize, oh, shit, the bell's about to start. Yeah, it just had a little bit of that, but a much more, an intent. Like, I felt like the crowd was most hot for this match out of everything.
Well, they also made it make sense. They had no bell ring, which is what you have to do in this situation. The bell did not ring. The match did not start. They brawled all around the ring, beat the crap out of each other. Singh comes down. He hits Samoa Joe. It was all done before the bell. So it's not like Jay Lethal could get the win right after Singh attacked, anything like that. He gets kicked out. So it really all came across as legit.
And you want to add, Joe?
No, I enjoyed this match. It's a rivalry that spanned companies. It was probably one of the matches I was most excited for going in. I thought Jay Lethal was going to take the title off him, but Samoa Joe retained.
Dude, I just want to add a couple other things too. Jay Lethal in the videos leading to Ric Flair's last match, plus the Ring of Honor countdown, is so on fire with his promos that I feel like, even though like he's recognized one of the top guys, like he could be further along in AEW. Like, this guy is so good on the mic. When he's talking about in this countdown about what Joe meant to him as a, like a leader, and he was his protege, and then he felt like he took liberties with him in the ring when they met, and they're referring to this old school footage, and he's yelling, "The emotional damage I will never get over." It is just chills. Like, Jay Lethal, extremely underrated on the mic. And I also want to say I like the build of this because Joe, it was kind of different because Joe couldn't be there. So it kind of gave you this feel of like old school days where maybe the old NWA touring champion was coming to town, and the guy who's the top contender, he has to build it up. And I thought Jay did fantastic with
that. Joe was missing like Randy Osgood for the first half of this show.
Oh, shit. Right. I've been missing comments here.
That's all right.
Oh, you're going to eat those words.
What? Oh, there he is. Oh, God. Thank God. Randy, we missed you.
Randy's getting the lowdown on the show here, but we're going into the main event, I believe, now, right?
Main event, man. Cash Rio, Dax Harwood defeat the Briscoe brothers. 2 out of 3 falls. Great matchup. I heard some people talking online how it was quiet at certain points of this match, and they were wondering if the crowd was burnt out or what. I don't think so. Being there live, this is what I saw. A hot crowd, and there were moments where they were just intense watching it. And I refer to a thing Jericho once said when he was being at his worst heel in WWE, when he was absolutely, AJ knows what I'm talking about, the era with Shawn Michaels, and he's just being a bad guy, and he slapped his wife, and he's talking quietly, and him and Vince talk about it. Like, if you're not over the top, but your character is so good and you're such a good heel, people are listening. And I felt that's what was going on in this match. They were watching, and they were intense. And that vibe for that show was insane, man.
I don't know what it looked like from home, but I can tell you in the crowd, we were not burnt out. Nobody was burnt out. There were quiet moments, but they were more almost like holy shit moments, like what's going to come next moments. It wasn't, oh God, we're tired, we're not into this. This match, all 3 falls, after, before, it held our attention the whole way.
Yeah, great seats for the show, Randy. We were right behind the commentator's desk.
I thought Randy was going to be with us. I didn't realize until I got there that Randy wasn't coming.
We were like 3-4 rows back. Another big question from Randy here.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm watching it Sunday or the next night in the bread truck, early morning, putting people's lives at danger. That's what I do. But I will be watching Ric Flair's last match this weekend, and I'll make sure not to get any spoilers.
So I want to ask you a question, Dave. Usually Dave asks questions. He asks me questions. He asks Joe questions. He asks every superstar that comes down the pipe questions. I want to ask you a question, man called Dave.
Yeah.
Are you more excited for SummerSlam or for the card that is Ric Flair's last match?
So let's talk about that for a second before we get into the 5-3-1. I'm excited for SummerSlam before I answer this. The answer is Ric Flair's last match, but I'm excited for SummerSlam for different reasons. I actually was not very excited about this card. I thought this was not one of their better built cards they've had, and that's saying something. I think the matches will be fine because WWE does tend to put on good matches on the pay-per-view. I just thought we've seen a lot of these matches before. What I am interested now, though, is with the regime change. I'm not expecting anything too crazy, but I'm wondering if we'll get maybe one surprise or some subtle things that maybe weren't going to happen. And maybe
I did like the interaction this week between Triple H and Seth Rollins on Twitter, where Seth Rollins said, "I worked my ass off all year, and now I'm not on SummerSlam. What is going on here?" And Triple H responded with, "I see you."
He was saying, no matter what, fans, I appreciate you singing my song. Yeah. Hopefully they hear you someday.
Yeah.
He responded with,
I hear you.
Yeah. So, and to answer the Randy's question, he's popping up here. Who is taking on Seth Rollins? No one. The match has been postponed, and as of right now, there is no, that match is just not on the show.
Is it possible, and this is just something that is possible maybe, that we don't know, maybe Seth Rollins comes to the ring, hey, how come I don't have an opponent? What is going on here?
I got an idea, too.
Could we see Randy Orton?
Okay, see, that's where you went. You know where I'm going to go? Because it's Triple H, and I think, hey, we want to have something a little different here. What if Seth Rollins shows up I'm probably gonna set myself up for disappointment here, but whatever. Seth Rollins shows up, and hey, I don't have a match. Has anybody got the balls out here to take me? And we get Johnny Gargano.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is actually going to announce his next move at StarCast this weekend. StarCast kicks off tonight with the roast of Ric Flair. And I can't remember if it's Saturday or Sunday where it would probably be Saturday where you figure out when he announces what he's doing next. Paige also has her own panel about turning the page. So it's going to be very interesting, but I'm excited for Ric Flair's last match just over SummerSlam. I mean, I'm excited for SummerSlam, but Ric Flair's last match, there's just so many good matchups on there. But guys, I'm going to jump out now because I know you are getting your list together for the 5-3-1 of top ROH matches of all time. So guys, take it away.
We are doing that. I'm also setting up some other stuff. AJ, do you have your list ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to kick it off then. And you know who to look out for, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's a small list this week, guys. So that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not counting down with a small list the way we do when we have all those names.
Oh, no. We'll do it at the end. That's fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Chris Zauhow booking the territory. He's got Samoa Joe versus Kento Kobashi. He's got Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. And he says, that's all I can think of. I'm not much of a Ring of Honor guy, but those will be two matches I know you'll keep an eye out for. And I'm going to give you another list, too, before we give you one. Philip Allen from the Booking the Territory group. Austin Aries versus Tyler Black. Kings of Wrestling versus the All Night Express. Bryan Danielson versus Samoa Joe. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. And Prince Nana versus Truth Martini.
I thought you were going to say Prince Nana versus Tully Blanchard. That is a great list. For those of you who are not in the know, Tyler Black is Seth Rollins.
Absolutely. What do you got for me?
So I've got Zach. He's Mrs. St. John's favorite baby boy. And he's got the Briscoes, both of them, 1 and 2. And then he's got Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi, Samoa Joe versus CM Punk, and Danielson versus McGuinness in the unified title match. By the way, that Samoa Joe CM Punk is the 60-minute draw.
Absolutely. And we got Chris Spiker from Booking the Territory Facebook group. Bryan Danielson versus Kenta. Punk versus Joe 2. Samoa Joe versus Kento Kobashi. The Briscoes versus the Motor City Machine Guns. And Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. And since I think I have a little more list, I'm going to go with one more. Mark Stoltz. He's got Samoa Joe versus Kento Kobashi. CCW versus Ring of Honor Cage of Death. Punk versus Joe. Any of the three. How do you want to do that? And then he's got Do Fixer versus Blood Generation. And War Games, the Embassy versus Generation Next.
I have the one and only Randy Osga. And he's got Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness in the Unified 2006. Samoa Joe versus Kenta, 2005. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe 2 from 2004. Steen versus El Generico and Ring of Honor Final Battle, 2012. Bucks versus Machine Guns versus Addiction, 2016's All-Star Extravaganza.
All right, I'm going to give you two more lists, and it's going to be themed. It's my list and Producer Joe. First, I got The Addiction versus Motor City Machine Guns versus Young Bucks Ladder Wars 6 All-Star Extravaganza. Joe versus Kento Kobashi. Briscoes versus FTR 1. Joe versus Punk 2. And Briscoes versus FTR 2. Maybe a little recency bias there, but I really did love those matches. And then I got Producer Joe. He's got Jay Briscoe versus Jay Lethal. Best of the World 2015. Then he's got Kamatachi. Hiromu Tanahashi. Okay, must have been another name then. Versus Dragon Lee, All-Star Extravaganza. And he's got The Addiction versus the Machine Gun versus the Young Bucks Ladder Wars 6. I believe Joe was at that. And then he's got FTR versus Briscoes and FTR versus Death Before Dishonor.
Nice. I've got Alex Lorenzo's list. He's got Jay Lethal versus Michael Elgin. You don't hear Michael Elgin very much anymore. Mm-hmm. You've got Bucks versus the Forever Hooligans. Matt Taven versus Marty Scurll, who we also don't see enough anymore. The Bucks versus the Wolves at Manhattan Mayhem, and Nakamura versus Steen at the first War of the Worlds show.
All right. Continuing on. I got what is this here? WatchMojo.com. Davey Richard versus Mike Elgin. Takashi Morishima versus Bryan Danielson. Samoa Joe versus CM Punk 2. Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness, Unified 2006. And Kento Kobashi versus Samoa Joe. And now I'm going to give you one more, AJ. I got TheRinger.com. We got Low-Key versus Bryan Danielson versus Christopher Daniels. Raven versus CM Punk, dog collar match. Homicide versus Carino. Joe versus Punk. Joe versus Kobashi. What do you got?
All right, so I've got Scott from Voluntown, and before I get too busy and forget, he's got the Young Bucks versus Addiction versus the Motor City Machine Guns from Ladder War 2016. He's got Kenta Kobashi versus Samoa Joe 2005. Samoa Joe versus CM Punk 2 2004. Steen and Generico Final Battle. Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness for the ROH Unified in 2006. Nice. I also have Evan Ginsberg. Yes. I think he's related to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? Is that his aunt? I don't know. Sure. But it's Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson. Davey Richards versus Eddie Edwards, which was a fun one. Nigel versus Claudio. Nigel versus Austin. Aries. And Bryan Danielson versus Morishima.
All right. And then I got a list, and then I think you're going to be last. I got thesporter.com. Bryan Danielson versus Kenta. Blood Generation versus Stu Fixer. Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Ring of Honor Driven and Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness Unified, and Kento Kobashi versus Samoa Joe. I'm sensing a theme here.
I have one from Last Minute Add-On, but it does not say the name on there. It is.
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me who it is. That's it is Punk versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi. Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Kevin Steen versus El Generico. FTR versus the Briscoes 1 and 2. And then Addiction versus Motor City Machine Guns all versus the Young Bucks. Ladder Wars 6.
All right, and then why don't you give me your list here?
Oh no, wait a minute. That was the matches to keep a tally of.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I was just gonna let it fly. I
was like, wait a minute, somebody put a long list on here. I told you, I'm on a lot of stuff right now.
I know. We're gonna go off memory this week. We won't be doing the tally. That's fine. We'll figure it out. Give me your list,
AJ. My list is actually gonna be Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson. To me, that's one of the great pure wrestling matches of all time. Anybody who hasn't seen that, please check that out. Samoa Joe versus Kenta's got to be in there. I love Kenta. I love the strong style. I love the fact that these two big guys just beat the living crap out of each other. You got to throw at least one of the FTR versus the Briscoes. So I'm going to throw the one we saw. 2 out of 3 falls in there. And then Punk versus Samoa Joe 2 is going to be my other one. And then I think I have one more, which is Kevin Steen and El Generico. I love El Generico. I would rather see El Generico than Sami Zayn.
All right.
If they were related in any way.
Why don't we do this? Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson. That'll make number 3. I think we boot it. And I think the top 2 will be Kento Kobashi and Samoa Joe. And I say FDR and the Briscoes are going to make the list. I actually prefer their first match. And ultimately, though, Joe and Kobashi, you can't really replace the big singles match. So I'll give it to them.
I like it. I mean, I enjoyed the Briscoes match. Like I said, it's one of the best matches I've seen live, having the crowd in the palm of their hands. I did rewatch Punk versus Samoa Joe this week, which was incredible. But I'm going to give it to the Briscoes and FTR.
I thought you would. Well, I think the votes would be the deciding factor in that case. In that case, Kobashi and Joe will end up getting it this week. I do want to throw out a couple more things for our list next week. We're going to do top 5 potential AEW main eventers
Ooh.
in the next few years. So whoever you guys think that might be. And the reason why I did that, I figured we'll talk about this a little bit, is I thought this week's Dynamite, I just wanted to profile Daniel Garcia, Roosh, Ricky Starks, Hobbs, and Hook as all guys I saw potentially getting moved up the card.
Yeah, they're all incredible talents. Daniel Garcia is one who's obviously moving up the crowd very quickly. I still believe that Sammy Guevara is going to be one of the future megastars to prefix it. There's so many young stars there. Jungle Boy's over like Rover.
Yeah.
There's so much talent in AEW. But between now and next week, let's fine tune it, see who we think will be those megastars of the future, and I'm looking forward to it.
AJ, we gotta get out of here. Or we got time for some predictions.
We can make predictions real quick. Go ahead.
All right, let's do Ric Flair's lastmatch.com. We'll start off on Wikipedia here. We got this is the Bunkhouse Battle Royal. They actually have some names listed for this already. Adam Priest.
Oh shit, they got names?
We got some names here. Big Damo, Brian Myers, Bully Ray, Crimson, Crowbar, Gringo Loco, James Storm, Caro Haro, Commander, Ricky Shane Page, Sin Bodie, Wolfie D. I love it. And
Wolfie D, of course, for those of you who don't know, Bill Dundee's son from Memphis Wrestling, tremendous superstar in his own right.
Yeah. Excuse me. What do you think there? Anybody winning that out of the names we got? I say
I like Damo.
Yeah,
I think Big Damo's the biggest possibility.
Yeah. And there's a TBA, so maybe I'll wait to see who TBA is. Ren Narita versus Yua Yomura.
Yeah, that's the closest you've ever gotten on a pronunciation.
Yeah, you knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, I got Narita here, Ren Narita, because he's Moxley's protege. I know for a fact, and I feel like they'll put some focus on him.
They are both good talents, both Yuya Uemura and Ren Narita. They're right up there with like Shota Umino of like the top 3 young lions in New Japan. But I got to give it to Narita as well.
Yeah, I think Narita's going over.
All right, and then we got Davey Boy Smith Jr. versus Killer Cross. This is actually a rematch. The only time they ever met before was at Bloodsport,
which we saw live.
Davey Boy Smith won. I know he's one half of the NWA Tag Champion. I'd say this is going to be Killer Cross's night, though. That he's going to probably get the win here and maybe due for a bigger push down the road in the wrestling world. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Killer Cross is going over too. I love Davey Boy. I like what he's doing as a tag champion. I like the whole thing. But yeah, I think this is Killer Cross's night.
I got to disagree. I think Davey Boy's taking this.
Well, we'll see. And I do think Killer Cross could be one of those shortlist guys that might be getting called back to WWE soon. We'll have to see. But the Von Erichs, I love this match. This right here. Former guest of the show, Ross and Marshall Von Erich versus the Briscoes. Love me, them Von Erich boys. But at the end of the day, I think them boys are probably going to get a victory. The Briscoes, I got to put my money on them.
I'm going with Kerry and David. I think that they're in all of our hearts. I think they really have a shot here. David's the future of wrestling from what I hear. So this should go well for the Von Erichs.
I got Lance in the sick one.
Oh, yes.
No, this is going to be a wild brawl. I think the Von Erichs, they're going to give us an incredible match, but it's got to be Mark and Jay.
Yeah, I think the Briscoes are going over. They're red hot right now. Really, the only team going over them is probably the FTR.
Yeah. And then we have the Wolves, Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards versus the Motor City Machine Guns, Shelley and Sabin. This is going to be a fantastic match. But I think what's probably going to happen here is we're going to go with the team that's still a team these days. The Motor City Machine Guns. Impact has a little more of a presence on this show too. So just knowing all those things, I'm going to say Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin pull this off.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Guys, I have an emergency phone call I've got to take.
Dr. Zahorian's calling. He's got to get another treatment.
Exactly. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. And then here we got producer Joe still on the set here, so we can.
I know. Good thing I came back. I didn't know he'd be feeding this early into the show.
He's hurt. Ah, God, he got hit.
I hope he comes back next week and this doesn't become a way of life for him.
Let's finish up this predictions.
I disagree. I don't think the Machine Guns are taking this. I think it's going to be the Wolves.
I hope you're right. I hope it's like a night of surprises. All right. Rock and Roll Express, Kerry and Ricky Morton. That's right. That's how it's listed here, by the way. Kerry and Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express.
Hey, they got a contractual obligation to that name. So
versus the Four Horsemen. That's what they're calling this? I don't know about this. Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock.
You're on Wikipedia, by the way, too. I've seen it listed as Kerry and Ricky versus Brock and Brian Pillman, but
I don't think they just came up with that. Maybe they did. No, who knows?
America's most trusted news source. Who am I to argue?
I got Ricky and Kerry going over.
Yeah, it's tough because I'd like Brock and Brian to take it, but it's in the contract, man. They got to win.
They got to win. You know what? I'll disagree with you on that one. I'll go with Pillman and Jr. and Brock. Screw it.
I mean, I got to see them live, and they are a good team. I hope they're a team that even makes it to AEW eventually.
All right. And then we got a match that was just added. Kensuke Takashita, Nick Wayne, Jonathan Gresham, and Alan Angels in a 4 corners match here.
Hopefully Gresham makes it to that match with all the rumors about how he was coming out of Death Before Dishonor. That is a match I am very excited for, though.
You know what? I'll go upset. Nick Wayne pulls it off.
If Jonathan Gresham's not there, then yes, Nick Wayne. But Takeshita has had just a great run in the U.S., which is surprising because some DDT guys come over here, and if you look at like Michael Nakazawa, it just becomes like a lot of comedy.
Right.
But that has a potential for a big in-ring.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tateska, showing his name, and Gresham are probably the favorites. But I just think whatever, you know what? I could see Nick Wayne scoring a pin on somebody real quick, and it'd be a nice little feel-good moment for somebody like a young talent on this show.
Yeah, I think if you're bringing Nick Wayne onto a show like this, it's almost to feature him a lot like he's been featured in GCW coming into this.
Then we got, which I know I heard Dave Meltzer says he thinks this is going to be the match of the night. These guys have killed it before. Bandito versus Laredo Kid versus Ray Phoenix versus Black Taurus.
Yeah, big lucha match. I would call Bandito in that, but I mean, it could go Laredo Kid. It could go Black Taurus for that matter. Like, they're all great in-ring talents, but you would expect Bandito to win.
I'll go Ray Phoenix. We got Jordan Grace versus Deanna Purrazzo versus Rachel Ellering. I don't think Jordan Grace is dropping the Impact Knockouts champion on this card, so I'll go Jordan Grace.
I'm going to go Deanna Purrazzo. I mean, it's not going to be Rachel Ellering. This is going to elevate her stock. She's going to get eyes on her, but she's not going to take the title. I'm going to say Purrazzo takes it.
All right, and then we got Josh Alexander versus Jacob Fatu. I absolutely love this matchup. Impact World Champion against former MLW Heavyweight Champion. But, again, for similar reasons we talked about before, I don't see the Impact title changing hands on this show, so I got Josh Alexander.
Yeah, I got to go Josh Alexander, too. It's going to be an amazing match, but definitely Alexander.
And then Flair and Andrade versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. It's Flair's last match. I don't imagine he's doing the job here. My guess is Flair will probably pin Jarrett. I'll even go that far. Maybe make Jeff tap out with a figure 4. I don't know. It's going to be some feel-good moment thing. The big thing will be how this match is probably at the end. Is it
going to be a feel-good moment?
Well, as long as Rick doesn't fucking drop dead, his pacemaker.
I mean, isn't that? I would say that's almost everybody's biggest worry in this. Is it not? Like, I don't know how he's gonna look in the ring. Like, personally, I think it's a mistake to call this Ric Flair's last match. Because if this does well financially, why wouldn't there be another one down the road? He's already had a last match on the biggest stage that he could get. So, like, I'm a little weird about this match. Obviously, he's going to win. I hope it's good.
You watch any of the Ric Flair lastmatch.com stuff?
I have not yet. I'll probably catch up with it today.
Conrad talked about this in interviews too. He says the way this came about was that they had an idea for StarCast, and Rick had always talked about it. And then Rick, not being sure he could do it, consulted a doctor, and that he's been bouncing around in the ring for 3 months now. And he also said that he had a conversation with David Crockett because he didn't like the way things had always ended with Jim Crockett Promotions. And before he could even get the thing out about promoting an event, David Crockett's like, we'll do it. So if you believe all that, then it sounds like they really want to go in this as a farewell, mainly for Flair and Jim Crockett Promotions. Flair's already talked about he's had people already approaching him, but he has no interest. This is his last match. But the fact that Flair even brought that up made me a little concerned. So
when you bring up the Crockett promotion side of it, I do enjoy that. It does feel like a bootleg retirement, though.
Yeah.
You know, like, because he had the TNA come back after the WWE one, but I'll have to watch those. I mean, on the StarCast this weekend, there's the last ride of the Four Horsemen, which is going to have all the Four Horsemen on a panel. So, you know, I'll get into it. I'll see. There's also the roast of Ric Flair. I think I'm more excited for the roast than anything.
Yeah. Episode 2 is my favorite of that Ric Flair lastmatch.com.
Okay, there's 4 of them, right?
I only know 3. So
okay, maybe there's only 3. I'll look it up. It's on Fight.
Yeah. But all right, I think that's going to do it for it, guys. Next week, we're looking at top 5 potential main eventers for AEW in the next couple years. Who do you think?
Yeah, and we'll also talk some StarCast because we have plenty of StarCast panels. 30th anniversary of SummerSlam 92. You've got the last ride of the Four Horsemen, turning the page.
Mm-hmm.
What's next for Johnny Gargano?
Sure.
We've got a lot for you. And hey, if AJ is not still on that stuff, well, it might just be me and Dave coming back. So thank you for joining us and have a good one.